Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has appointed Alberta MP Randy Boissonnault as his special advisor for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning two-spirited issues. Boissonnault, who was the first openly gay MP to be elected in Alberta, will spearhead an apology to the LGBTQ2 community for the historical discrimination of sexual minorities in Canada on behalf of the federal government. And for her reaction to this appointment, we're joined by trans activist Nicki. Thanks for being here this morning.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, your impressions, how important is it to have a role like this in the federal government?
Well, I think it's extremely important. There are a number of changes going on, of which this projected apology is only one. And so having somebody to coordinate between departments within the cabinet, I think it's a good idea.
Did you ever think you'd see the day, an appointment like this at the federal level?
I'm seeing a lot of firsts at the federal level. The defense minister is coming out and looks like may well be cleaning up the discharge records for gay and trans people who were discharged. This is the first time we've seen a budget put out by the finance minister that mentions the LGBT community specifically. So there are a heck of a lot of firsts.
Well, as we mentioned, Randy Boissonnault's first big undertaking is to spearhead an apology. What do you hope is in that apology?
Well, actually, I think his job first is to make sure that the federal government stops doing things that it needs to apologize for. So part of I imagine part of his job would be, for example, to make sure that there is federal legislation to support gender identity. Right now, it's possible, for example, for a transgender member of the military to be discharged, and that's not against the law on the basis of being trans. So I imagine that step one is to stop the things that need to be apologized for, and then step two is then frame the apology in a way that's meaningful to a broad range of communities.
If I could hand you a pen and you wrote this apology for him, what would it say?
Well, once again, I would not write the apology until the federal government stopped doing some of the things it needs to apologize for. And I think the most sincere apology is not one that is written down or spoken, but that is actually manifest in action.
Actions louder than words.
Absolutely.
This role will also hopefully still exist after this apology and action has been taken. Mm-hmm. What do you hope that role will include afterwards?
Well, I think it would be a good idea. I mean, organizing inclusion across ministries is a complicated job. I suspect, well, there will continue to be a need for somebody to oversee that kind of work, whether it is LGBT only or it expands into areas that include issues around race or other forms of exclusion. I think it's a great idea.
The Liberal government had promised to be champions for the community. Do you feel like they're living up to their promise?
Well, I've been very cautious. Again, working in...
I get the sense from you, Nicki, that it's exciting news, but you were very tempered in your reaction.
Well, I try to be. I mean, we've been disappointed before. We've had legislation at the federal level that made it almost to the end and we were pipped at the post. So, yes, I have been very cautious. That said, this particular cabinet and this particular government has followed through on many of the promises, and a lot faster, frankly, than I was actually even expecting.
What reactions are you hearing from within the community to this announcement?
Well, again, the notion that you have to stop doing things that you need to apologize for before you apologize, I think is loud and clear in certainly what I'm hearing, that an apology, no matter how sincere, it just lacks sincerity if it doesn't. It's not also accompanied by action.
Action's going to take some time.
Yes. Yeah.
And how much time are you willing to give them? You waited a long time, so even for a role like this.
Yes, I would say that, you know, if not now, when? I mean, in fairness, instituting these kind of pervasive changes at the federal government requires deep changes across all ministries. The fact that they are continuing to do that is very hopeful. Again, part of my job is to help keep people honest in this respect. And so far, so good.
But you'll wait and see.
For sure.
Nicki, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks very much for having me.